All right. Hey, what's up, guys? I am still learning. Um, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you're watching. It is Choose Compassion here. And I just, when I have something on my mind and then my algorithm starts blowing up with what's on my mind, sometimes, besides questioning this technology thing, I wonder if if I should just press ahead. So I was back on YouTube minding my own business when I came across this story. Now, this is not a new story to me, but it's always interesting because I like to keep up on history. Now, I believe I titled this stream Tiffany Henyard is not Rosa Parks. She indeed is not. She's not. I'm just going to keep it all the way above. And I'm going to tell you why. But before I do that, I just kind of want to dive in and let us listen to our history because a lot of times we repeat things over and over. And I just think that we should learn to look at history. And sometimes it's good to repeat it, and sometimes it's not. So, without further ado, we're about, 2 minutes in. So, let's go ahead and get started here.
Dr. King said, Claudette, you're a very brave girl.
Now, who is Claudette? That is Claudette Colvin. And if you are not familiar with her, then let's go ahead and give you a little history so that we can get into what we want to talk about today. So, let's see. Here we go.
If you take some time to get to know your neighbors, you might learn that you actually live next to someone who made a huge contribution to American history. Claudette Colvin may seem to be living a quiet life in the coastal bend, but soon she'll be the main character in a movie. Hollywood will highlight her courageous actions, which changed the course of history during a time of injustice. I'm Michelle Lorenzo in your neighborhood with this special Women's History Month report.
Work with us now.
I want to let the people know that I was working, trying to support my family. And I can see the fruit of my labor through my children, my 2 boys, and my grandchildren.
Claudette Colvin is a retired nurse aide living in the coastal bend. To get where she's at today, she endured many struggles throughout her early life. As she took me down memory lane, it led us to Montgomery, Alabama, 68 years ago. At that time, Jim Crow laws were enforced, legalizing racial segregation.
Although they said separate but equal, it was everything separate and unequal. Color signs was tacked on the door of restaurants. They was in stores. We had to go to the color section just to get an ice cream cone.
A Montgomery city law also required racial segregation on public transportation. But before American civil rights activist Rosa Parks took a stand, 15-year-old Colvin stayed in her seat. She remembers the exact day.
March the 2nd, 1955.
9 months before Rosa Parks' arrest, Colvin was taking a bus home from school when the driver ordered her and 3 other black students to give up their row of seats to a white passenger.
I was sitting near the window in the opposite aisle, so if this lady wanted to sit down, she could sit in opposite me, but she wasn't going to sit opposite me.
Colvin said her classmates reluctantly moved, but she...
Okay. I just want to stop it there because it's important for me in history to note that Claudette Colvin, some of her classmates moved. From different accounts, we hear that people were telling her, "Girl, what you doing? You better move." But she did not, which is something that I find very courageous in her and all of the people who have been in a situation similar to this, as well as our up and coming youth who are out here and they are about unity within their communities, which is our as Black people, which is in our ancestral nature, unity. That is what we should have inherited from our ancestors. But I'm going to let this continue.
He refused.
The squad car policeman come on the bus and asked me why I'm sitting there, and I said, it's my constitutional rights. And he said, constitutional right. One, they knocked my books out of my lap. They manhandled me off the bus.
Colvin was then handcuffed, arrested, and booked into a local jail. 2 of the 3 charges were dropped. However, a charge for assaulting a police officer stayed on her record until it was expunged more than 6 decades later in 2021.
When I got back to school, they said, Claudette, you was crazy. You was crazy, girl. They could have killed you. I said, I didn't think about it. I said, I didn't think about death.
Instead, her mind lingered on lessons from her teachers. In school, she learned about prominent figures of the past who fought for justice.
I could not get up because history had me glued to the seat. Harriet Tubman, she was my favorite because she was a brave woman. She led a lot of Africans to freedom.
Colvin herself is considered a pioneering activist, part of a movement fighting for equality. The 84-year-old is currently one of 2 survivors of the first federal court case challenging bus segregation in Montgomery.
Okay. And I just want to stop it there because I would really like to go back to where she said, you crazy. People thought she was crazy. Like, why would you do that? Now you got a charge. If I'm correct, her charge was assaulting a police officer, and she was in an adult jail, old school jail. But the bigger thing is, everyone said she was crazy. She 15. She crazy. You crazy. Why you do that? Why you do that? She didn't think about it. All she was thinking about was what was right. All she was thinking about was history. As she said, and that was so eloquent the way that she said it. And, she has also said that, she was learning about this in school. She was learning about history. The teachers were sharing about Africa. So, she was understanding at a young age that, that no, this is wrong. And you fight for what's wrong. I mean, fight for what's right. No, what's wrong. You fight for what's right, even when people think you're crazy. Hashtag Tiffany Henyard. But we gonna hold it.
The Supreme Court ruled bus segregation was in violation of the 14th Amendment in the Browder versus Gale case.
I survived. I do believe that Jesus was standing by me. Jesus has sent an angel to protect me because I was doing the right thing.
The public will be able to witness Ms. Colvin's heroic moment in history on the big screen with a movie called Spark. Anthony Mackie, best known for his role as Sam Wilson in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will direct the film, starring Sanaya Sidney, who will portray Claudette Colvin. The movie's release date has yet to be announced, but when I talked to Ms. Colvin about it, you have a movie coming out.
Yes.
Words could hardly describe her excitement.
It's in here in my heart. I feel it. I really feel it. But I just want to be able to, God, let me live long enough to see it produced.
No matter how many times or different ways her story is told, Ms. Colvin hopes.
Okay, my bad. So, Anthony Mackie, can you please get on top of that? We're gonna need you to get right up on top of that. We need this thing finished, and we need, for this movie to come on, man. So I'm gonna share something else because it's always nice to have, an actual, like, the first account story, the story with the families. And when I found this, I was like, oh my goodness, really this is really great. This is really good. So here, 7 years, this was 7 years ago, Claudette Colvin was with her sister, and she was doing an interview for 1010 News. And 1010 Wins, I'm sorry. And her and her sister discussed more personal matters with regard to this.
Her sister is here. Okay, so along comes this museum in January, and your daughter, who visited the museum in September of 2016, went, looked, and noticed something was missing. And she picked up the phone and called Mama, you. What was that conversation about?
Well, actually, my daughter didn't realize what she was seeing. She just said, oh, I'm so excited. Auntie Claudette has been mentioned in the museum. And that was her first thought. And she took a screenshot of the plaque and she emailed it to me. And then when I opened it up and I saw that the museum, the wording that it was a test case, and in my mind, my head started spinning because it wasn't a test case. The case that they are referring to is called the Browder versus Gale case. And I would please ask you to look that up. It's the Browder versus Gale case. And that included 4 women, Amelia Browder, Susie McDonald, Mary Louise Smith, and Claudette Colvin. And because Ms. Browder was the more prominent and the oldest, one of the oldest persons that was in the lawsuit, the case was named after her, for her name. And Gail was the mayor of Montgomery at that time. So it was called the Browder versus Gale case. And I just want to clarify a couple of things before I share my story with you. That when Fred Gray was
the attorney,
her attorney that she was referred to at that time, he was fresh out of law school. And Claudette was his first case. He was 25. He knew he was in heads over water, and they had gone through several other cases, Black ministers, other women. But during the time and I know it's hard for you to go back in time to 1955, but they were being threatened. There were church bombings. We were being terrorized. So a lot.
Whoa, pause. So there was a lot there. Number one, the sister's granddaughter, which would be Claudette's niece, Claudette Colvin's niece, she saw this, not realizing what she saw, and it said test case. Huh? What you mean test case? She was the Kickstarter of this because, as she said, as her sister explained, she was one of the first ones to actually get a lawyer. She was one of the first ones to actually go forward. And it was her and 3 other people. So, the Browder case doesn't have her name first because, from my understanding, the Browder was the more prominent one or the older one. But we're going to get into it. Let me not tell too much. I just wanted to make sure that we also are mindful that the sister said, people, were, all these things were happening. And then within their communities, it was this sense of fear. So let me let her continue.
A lot of people would not give consent to be a part of any case because they knew about the repercussions that might occur. These 4 women had the courage to stick it and stay with it and lend their name to this case. Rosa's case, when she was arrested 9 months after
later.
Claudette, was a misdemeanor. She was arrested for assault, almost, well, we would term it almost felony toward a police officer these days. So her case was considered a higher priority to challenge the segregation laws because she chose to fight. And those 4 other women cases were viewed as a stronger case. So when Attorney Gray screened all of the potential plaintiffs, Rosa was not a potential plaintiff because they felt that her case would take too long, and they had begun the bus boycott because of Claudette's and other women's arrest. So Joanne,
I did not mean to do that.
All this week, we've been checking in on people whose stories we've shared.
I meant to hit pause. I didn't mean to do that. But what I did want to do was stop. I was trying to stop there so that I could just kind of talk about the fact that, there were many people, there were thousands of people, Rosa Parks clearly, as most of us know by now, was not the first to get on the bus. And that is no shade, as, we would say, and as, Claudette's family will say, as you'll see, is, there's nothing, negative with that. It's just, it was this lawsuit that Claudette Colvin had along with the other 3 that basically started the entire bus boycott. So imagine had they not, said, okay, no, we're filing a lawsuit. Imagine had they not said or done that. I mean, it would have still been, people afraid to speak up. People still thinking that, she's crazy. This is a crazy lady that, is basically, why are you doing this? You're 15. And she was 15 at the time. So, to really understand that, the ramifications of, what this meant. She was 15. Rosa Parks was like 42, I believe. So, this is where I say, the youth, they are our future. They're the ones. It's just, everybody's not going to think the same. And with regard to the pressure that people feel to stay silent, I believe that ties right on into today. I'm going to let this go ahead.
So Joanne Robinson then went about her business of getting the bus boycott started while she was, and the other 4 women, they were working with the attorneys to get the case started. Fred Gray knew that he was out of his league. He then went to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund in New York to solicit the help of Thurgood Marshall and Robert L. Carter. Thurgood Marshall went on to be a Supreme Court justice. And Robert Carter went on to prominence as a prominent attorney. But these men and Claudette testified before the Supreme Court. Now, Joe Biden said that when we got health care, that it was a big effing deal. This was a big effing deal in 1955 for Black people, colored people, Negroes to argue a case before the U.S. Supreme Court.
Factual. So you have to recognize history and the simple fact that history it was overlooked. We want to get into why. Why do we overlook the people, and don't worry, we'll get to Tiffany. I know people are like, you're not talking about Tiffany. Oh, I will. You might like it, you might not, depending on where you stand. However, this is what made the standing up against so many people, not just the white people. And that's what I'm trying to really, put in there. Like this wasn't just you're fighting against white people. You're fighting against your own people because you have people like, you need to be quiet, shut up. And so many people that were in fear. And so they didn't speak up. That's wild. I mean, if you want, to kind of start to compare, let's start to think about, what did Tiffany do? What did Tiffany Henyard do? Because, Claudette Colvin, she not only was not recognized, but she was deemed a delinquent for doing this. So how do we paint Tiffany? As a delinquent? But let's continue, because this is very interesting, and I love Claudette Colvin's story.
And they won successfully.
So let's break this down. And the understanding that I have of this was, as you state, Miss Colvin actually sat on the bus. Well, there have been several before.
Thousands.
But the difference was a lawyer came into the picture here. Okay.
Right.
9 months later, Rosa Parks sat on a bus. This started the litigation by which desegregation was ordered for the bus system in Montgomery. The big question that everybody's asking, Gloria, Miss Colvin, why could she not become the face
of that young lady's case? There's a caste system in all societies. The darker you are, you can go to India, you can go to Haiti, you can go to any country, and the
I'm not talking to her. She is correct. Stigma amongst ourselves as Black people, and of course, not all. I'm never going to say all anybody. So, but there is a stigma that exists in different cultures among certain people, where if you're light skinned, that's light skin is in. If you're not light skinned,
the darker the natives are, the lower you are on the totem pole. Okay. That's true in every culture. Okay. And it was the same in our culture, and it was the same in white culture, the darker you were. And then Rosa she was more appealing, and she was going to be more acceptable to the white community.
Spell it out. She had long hair,
and she was fair-skinned.
Okay.
She had good hair.
And she was also a secretary for the NAACP.
Secretary, and she was groomed.
Woman.
Let's just be clear.
Okay.
She was groomed for this. We had a place in Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville, called Highlander Center. That's where you went to be taught nonviolence, the technique of Gandhi, and the technique of being a nonviolent protester.
Okay, so again, this is why we say we are not ever going to take anything away from Rosa Parks, because she did things in her way, and her way was going to get trained to do these things, and it was very much helpful. Now, what about the things that we kind of tuck away and push down? Why do we do these things? But I'm gonna let her continue.
So Rosa was groomed for this. She was being taught by the best during that time. So she was groomed for this. And then about a couple of months after all of this happened to my sister, at 15, she became pregnant. And if the stigma of being pregnant in 1955 was overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And The ministers and the leaders of that time felt that a 15-year-old and being pregnant,
Just didn't fit the bill.
it didn't fit the bill.
Okay.
And
I don't know why I keep doing that, but I have no idea why I keep doing that. No, I wanted to say that the stigma of, being pregnant, especially if you're a teenager, it's still there for some. I mean, for a lot of people, it has become the cool thing, but if it, there's a stigma that still comes with, not only if you're a teen parent, but if you're a single parent, if you are, you could be 40 years old. If you are a single parent, that is looked upon negatively. So the similarity that I'm seeing with that and this is, did we not all of us, that's why I say we, but not everybody, did we not talk about Tiffany Henyard being a single mother and who she slept with, and that's why she's not a good leader, and yada 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 yada. So I mean, because this Claudette Colvin, as a teenager, a courageous teenager, because she got pregnant. Now, she wasn't pregnant at the time. Some accounts say that she was already pregnant. No, she had gotten pregnant. So when all this went down, she got pregnant. Now, wonder what would have happened had they embraced her. What could have happened had the community rallied around her instead of shunning her for being a single parent? But I digress. I'm gonna continue.
so they didn't want to use her.
But this was the problem, as we understand it. Rosa's case had gotten bogged down in state courts.
Right.
And it would have taken years to get to the point where it would even be considered by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
This was in motion.
This was in motion, and the people were now on the streets. They were now off the buses.
381 days, in
extended,
fact.
and they were off the buses for 381 days. And everyone think they know and assume that the 381 days desegregated buses in Montgomery and the state of Alabama. That was not the case. White folks didn't care how long you sat out there until the law was changed.
Preach, Gloria.
And white folks had to remove those signs.
Mm-hmm.
That was their outrage, that they had to move the signs and sit beside a Black person.
Mm-hmm.
We were known as colored during that time. That's when the laws changed throughout the United States. You got to keep in mind, it wasn't only on buses, but you couldn't get a taxi.
Yeah.
You couldn't, we had porters, but you had a colored section on the train, colored section on the buses, and forget about airplanes. You could not buy an airplane ticket.
Wow.
So the Browder versus Gale case, when it was handed down, it impacted public transportation throughout the United States, and not just in the South.
Montgomery, yeah.
And not just in Montgomery, but all over the United States.
So let's go.
So this woman, Claudette Colvin, her coming together with 4 other women is what kicked off a movement. Now, is Tiffany Henyard Claudette Colvin? Is that where I'm going? I'm not going to say anything just yet.
Cut to the chase.
Okay.
2 questions, one for you, one for you. How did you feel when all was said and done and Rosa Parks received Congressional Medal of Honor, presidential honors, honors all over? In fact, when she passed away, she was, I think, the only African-American woman, the first, whose body lie in state in the rotunda at the Capitol. How did you feel about that? And then coming to you asking, why didn't somebody say something long time ago before you came to visit Larry Mullins? at 10-10 wins? I mean, and I'm being facetious. First of all, why?
Well, I can't answer that question, but I know how I felt. I felt disappointed because that they had left part of history out,
Mhm.
and I felt disappointed because what made Dr. King receive the Peace
The
Prize,
Nobel.
Nobel Peace Prize,
Mhm.
was because of the success of the Montgomery bus boycott.
Boom. I'm going to pause right there. So, Dr. Martin Luther King received the Nobel Peace Prize with, the recognition of the success of the Montgomery bus boycott. But Miss Claudette Colvin, now probably a mother at this point, and she's just sitting back. She's just sitting back. She said she was angry that history was left out. And no matter how people felt about it, which is, she's a single mother, she's a teenager, she's this, she's that. Now, there are many accounts where you can get deeper into Claudette Colvin's story if you'd like, because it is a very interesting one. It's like, I'm hoping that Anthony Mackie, if he has not done this movie, please finish, Anthony, please. Mr. Mackie, sir, thank you. But imagine what she had to go through. Like, wait a minute, I did this, I did that. It feels kind of similar to history repeating itself right now. So there you go. What, 3250 mark? 3250. She's going to talk about Tiffany. So yes, I am. This seems eerily similar to all of the things that Madam Mayor Tiffany Henyard was really trying to say. And now you have the faces that are like, okay, we're doing all this, we're doing this, and we're like, and it's not even done as well. So, that's kind of disappointing. Not only probably, I'm sure, to Tiffany, but to people around them, the residents. Why do we try to leave history out? Why? What is it with secrets and putting each other down? What is it with uplifting each other to your faces and then tearing each other down behind your back? I mean, pretty much everyone that I know identifies as a Bible believing person. And, even if you are not, you should check it out. It's pretty much the same as going to therapy, except they don't do Bible scriptures. It's, 1-on-1 alignment and all of that. But why do we do this to each other? That's a question that I'm actually going to sit with for a minute. Why do we look at the negative in people? Yes, Claudette Colvin was 15 years old. Yeah, she ended up getting pregnant by the time all of the, fame and all of that kicked off. Yeah. Why? There were multiple reasons. She was 15. She's that's a pioneer in itself, just being younger. Literally a child. But if you just embrace different people, different ideas, different ages, instead of trying to put her down, she could have contributed so much more to the movement. However, what we see here today is the same thing in terms of shaming a single woman, in terms of shaming a single mother, in terms of shaming, period. If you support this person, you're shamed. Yada, yada, yada. It's not right. It took how many years 60 something decades for her record to get expunged because history did not want to recognize her? No, we will not be doing this. We will not be repeating this portion of history again. So, I'm not digressing. I'm just gonna let this go a
It
little.
was a domino effect. What
And
you
so he wouldn't have got the recognition he got if we had no
did. Had it
won the
not been for
Supreme,
those.
it had not been for the Supreme Court decision.
Mhm.
And why would you leave? Why would it wouldn't take? Why would you leave out these 4 women who put their life on the line?
I applaud you in that you've not said, why would they leave me out? You're still thinking in terms of everybody. And I applaud that for you. You speak in terms of the 4 women. And I like that. Why didn't they come out before? You were telling me something. I mean, the families knew each other. You all knew Rosa Parks' family. Gloria, tell me about this this thing that kept somebody in the family from coming forward.
Well, let me I'm going to give you a little bit of background of how we grew up. We grew up in the country. Claudette grew up in Pine Level, Alabama. Rosa Parks moved from Tuskegee at 2 years old, and she moved to Pine Level, Alabama, where she met my mom. My mom, our mom, was a kid in Pine Level, Alabama, and she would tell us stories later on when we were older about how she grew up with Rosa Parks, and she used to play with and play in Rosa's hair. When my mom passed, she wrote a letter, a sympathy letter to the family, but she took that time to recognize my great-grandfather again. So you got to think, what was all of this, the connections of between our 2 families going through her mind 9 months later, after finding out who she is, who her people were.
Okay.
And then now she just makes this decision to get up on the bus.
Okay. And I want to pause it there because I apologize. It has been 38 minutes and I have not officially said hi. And I'm new here. So, hello, Burgundy Blue Commentary Beautiful. Hello, TK times 3. Hello, Potato Gaming. Hello, Shavis. Hello, Hiram. All right, so this story right here, what she just said about the connections. Now, I just wanted to interject because it's important to note that not only did Rosa Parks, go and decide that she wanted to do this and go and train and do all of that. It's very interesting that before this started gaining attention with the bus boycott. Ooh, tongue twister. So when this started with the bus boycott, and Rosa Parks is saying that, oh, it's gaining recognition. She knows who Claudette Colvin is. She knows who the family is. I mean, she's 42 years old. Kind of like, older, I'm looking like older woman, very young child, don't know. So it's important to note that before this, Rosa Parks did not want to be outside and, protesting publicly in a way that would, rock the boat. You can look that up. We're not going to get into that right now because the purpose of this is not to tear anyone down. It's to show how we might be able to actually help people who are really involved. It's one thing to have an opinion. It's one thing to sway an opinion, and it's one thing to scare the hell out of people so that they don't speak. This ends here. So, Market 4047. Tananye said, yes, Tananye. Get it right, Beyonce, Kanye, but anyway. Tananye said that this ends now with the downplaying of each other. We, as a people, as humans, should uplift others. That's how we rise. We rise by uplifting others. We don't rise by tearing people down. And history, this very important piece of history, was left out for all the wrong reasons. And it wasn't fair. And it wasn't right. But let's get into another interesting aspect of this.
Somewhere in there, do we get the impression that Mama said, don't you say a thing negative about Rosa Parks, you just leave things as
I'm old, so I'm like Claudette.
That's okay.
Some things, you have to. It comes about with.
That's okay.
Just flashbacks.
Did I follow you?
But you're following me.
Okay.
So when Rosa did what she did 9 months after Claudette, my mom said she has been chosen. The leaders have chosen her, and so we will never speak of this again. And we did not. This is the second time that I've actually told this story. I told it in Petersboro, New Hampshire last month because I was put under duress. I was called on the spot. But I shared that with Miss Barnes, and she thought it was something worthwhile that I should share again. But growing up,
you know what it is? I'm sorry, I interrupted her mid-sentence, but it's actually absolutely important. I'm glad that that person encouraged her to tell this portion of the story, because in telling this portion of the story, you get to understand different dynamics. Now, their mother didn't want to rock the boat. She didn't want to cause division. And that part is very understandable. We don't want to, divide, because it could have been the dark skinned lady's going against the light skinned lady, and then it could have shaken and divided the whole community. So instead of doing that, their mother instructed them to stay silent. And I think that, how can I say, in the bigger piece of this, it might have been helpful. I just think that them coming together and accepting Claudette as well could have changed the trajectory of the movement, and maybe things could have gone faster. But this whole, you've got bitterness stewing, as they will talk about. Hi, Tracy. You have bitterness that that is brewing, and then you have the mother is like, no, stay silent. And that is an epidemic that, unfortunately still exists as well. We have to be quiet. Be quiet. Don't rock the boat. Don't shake nothing. Don't shake the trees. Don't shake the tape. Don't shake the tables. Don't shake unless you want to get shook type stuff. But no, sometimes, and in some cases, if you feel something strongly where there's a question, maybe you need to ask that question, and maybe it can help. Because I can go back and look at Claudette Colvin and say, you know what? Maybe if she would have said, okay, I'm sorry, I'm moving, then it wouldn't have raised the stakes. But for it to be left out altogether, like it seems, 4505 Market, as it seems that Dolton itself, and this was, and the only reason that I'm really started to think about this was based on something our friend to the channel, Burgundy Blue Commentary, pulled up, and she was just pulling up famous people of Dolton. It had nothing to do with this child, but you know me, I was like, famous people of Dolton. Let me just run that through the Google, and you can go to my community page and see what came up. So Why do we try to leave out history? Why are we not either clearing Tiffany Henyard's name or sending her to jail? I'm going to sit with that at 45:57. Why are we not holding the current mayor and the trustees to their promise of transparency to let us know how Tiffany stole, exactly how she commingled funds in a way for them to sit back and watch the public come to the podium and speak to her in a very derogatory way, in which had nothing to do with the betterment of the city. I'm sorry, village. It's really feeling like a city now. So please excuse me. If I call it a city, I will correct myself. And we don't like that. So, Tiffany Henyard. No, I wouldn't say she's Rosa Parks. Would I say that she rocked the boat like Claudette Colvin? Would I say that she's more like Claudette Colvin? I would. Would I say Tiffany Henyard is more like Claudette Colvin in that people thought that she was delinquent, that she was a single mother who wasn't married, and she wasn't a good example? She was a delinquent. Oh my gosh, she has a record. She fought the cops. She's a crazy person. And now that's in her, and this is not me saying that. This is by Miss Claudette Colvin's account. She was in her own community. She was the crazy lady at the time. She was crazy for having a lawsuit with 3 other women with whom she always, I noticed, from what I noticed, Claudette Colvin always includes them. She doesn't say like what I did. She's always we. And then with regard to the systems, the democracy, the NAACP, the all of that, people wanting to, get uplifted when, if not for her, Martin Luther King might not be the Martin Luther King that you all know. Kind of like without Tiffany Henyard as the supervisor of Thornton Township, people didn't even know it existed. Now go ahead and say I'm lying, because I'm not. How many people, whether if she was looked at as this delinquent, this single mother, how many people knew it existed before her? Let's keep it all the way above. So we just gonna let history not be history because some people was mad and jealous. And by some people, I mean Edward Steves, Mohammed, and the crew, Kiana Belchers and them and the gang and all them. So really, that's what we doing? No, we're not about to let 80, 90 years pass. Show us what's wrong now. You don't get to not do that. Show us what's wrong now. Show us what's wrong. Show us what she commingled. Show us the lack of money, because we can't even see the lack of money. Why do we do this? Why do we leave out history? Why do we try to erase people from history? Why do we try to erase people from history? Why do we try to erase people from history? What's the point? Who benefits from that? The people that are sitting in front of the residents. Dolton looks sad. The township looks sad. And that's from most accounts of people that have been through there in this past year versus the previous years. But we're not gonna be honest. We're not gonna be honest because we might have called Tiffany a few names. Hell, I said from jump, like the way it was presented to me, I'm like, who is this lady? Who is she? But then I'm looking like, wait a minute. And then I'm looking at the people at the podium that are not talking. They're talking about everything but politics. Delgado unasked that seat. That was a good one, Mary. What's her name? See, it's just some people are so forgettable. But unasked that seat, it was only good because my auntie used to say it. But anywho, why do we do this? Who benefits? And so now Mary, I forget her last name, over there at the township talking about, oh, we're new trustees, give us time. So you want to be allowed the grace that you did not give Tiffany. And the same Tammy Brown, Jason House, all of you people that are terrorizing the residents or have terrorized the residents, all of y'all that have terrorized the residents. Right now, I'm keeping it at Nikita Cloud, who started this because she hails from reality TV. To Rome, no love. Check it out. I think it's actually called To Rome with Love, but she came back with none. Now, how do you trust a person that was tricked into signing divorce papers? Y'all listen to Nikita Cloud. Anyway, and all of these people got how many jobs she got now? Nikita, how many jobs you got? How many? That's y'all money. That's taxpayer money. Because y'all want to erase Tiffany like they wanted to erase Claudette Colvin. Peep game. The rabbit hole goes deeper.
Because I was put under duress. I was called on the spot. But I shared that with Miss Barnes, and she thought it was something worthwhile that I should share again. But growing up, we were not allowed to speak about Rosa or about Claudette because we didn't want anyone to know. And it wasn't that we were ashamed of what she did, but this was the 50s and the 60s, and we did not want our home bombed. We were afraid, and we didn't want any trouble out of white people. So growing up, we were not allowed to talk about her case or knowing Rosa. And my mom said that nobody's going to believe that I grew up with Rosa Parks, and nobody's going to believe that we know Rosa. So just leave it alone. And she said, leave it alone. And so I have 8 sisters. We never shared this information. And we've got friends that are 20 and 30 years of our friendship that when they did find out was very upset with us because we weren't allowed to talk about it.
I can imagine. And exactly. Well, Tracy, it's a lot of people that need to unask the seats, Like, well, you say allegedly. I will not say allegedly. I tend to agree with Trina Downs. If Tiffany should have went, they all should have went. So that's just, it is what it is. You see what I'm saying? These are the people that made her the township crazy lady. You see what I'm saying? These are the people that sparked a whole campaign against Burgundy Blue, who was not running for trustee or anything. So you see what I'm saying? Like vicious stuff here. And a lot of it was out of fear of exposure, out of fear of exposure. You know how many people that I talked to in Dolton, in the township, that was like, girl, it's nothing you could do. There's no sense of speaking up. It's nothing you could do. Here we go. History repeating itself. Now we getting into it. And I'm finna go. But girl, you better be quiet. Better not say nothing. It's not worth it. Fear. And that's why I wrote in this description that the only time a human being can be brave is when they're afraid. Period. You know, that's the only moment in time that you get. If there's one moment, if you didn't have a lot of moments, that's the only moment. I get what the mother was saying. The mother was living in fear. So division comes because people don't want to say anything. Hundreds of people. No, you can't get involved because it's bigger than that. Riley Rogers. Boom. Bing, bop, boom, bop, bam. In my Kendrick Lamar impression. More people was afraid of the connections Riley Rogers had. People weren't scared of Jason House or Tammy Brown. You see how they did Mama Hill. So what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? We're not about to repeat history. We are not about to be silent. And that's what the purpose of this is. Because the youth, getting back to our youth, which is the other thing that I wanted to touch on, they're the ones that are going to see this long after we gone. And they're going to be like, same as what? Same as who? The big JC, right? Jesus, right? Yahweh, that guy, same as him. They didn't like him. According to them, he was dirty. He stank. The people he was around was thugs. And now Jesus is one of the most popular things going. Why? Why did it take so long? Because who benefited? Rome. Who benefits now? The people that are in front of you. How the residents doing? Anybody talk to them? Y'all seen them cans they getting? You see how there's everybody running amok with. Now I didn't see this, so I can't say that I saw this for this one thing. I'm gonna say allegedly because I didn't see it and someone else can confirm. But allegedly you can't even get in the store without like signatures and things. People just are there like it's a campaign free for all. Everyone was against one woman and the bag was empty. Crazy work.
And my mom told us, she said, as long as Rosa is alive, you will not tell anyone about and she didn't want it to seem like we were taking anything away from Rosa and what the public knew about Rosa. And so we were not allowed to talk about it.
So they didn't let me know when they were going to have these demonstrations. They didn't even let me know. I learned by, what is that man, news reporter in Birmingham?
Frank Sikora.
Frank Sikora, about the 25th anniversary. They didn't even let me know.
Did they tell you anything about the museum opening? Were you invited to the museum opening?
No.
She was not invited to anything pertaining to this, even though she, as a 15-year-old, went to jail. Even though a 15-year-old, as part of a lawsuit, went through all of this in real life, not the Rosa Parks way, which again, just as Claudette Colvin has taught us, not in a way that takes away, but let's just say Rosa Parks was trained and she was affiliated. She would get out of jail. She knew that, the NAACP had her back. You're talking about a 15-year-old girl with Claudette Colvin. Rosa Parks was a 42-year-old woman. Claudette Colvin was a 15-year-old that sparked the movement. And I believe the name of the movie is called Spark, that I am hoping should be coming out.
No.
The family, no one got any type of messages. Hey, we're gonna no. Have you contacted them and asked, hey, we're still here?
I have not. And one of the reasons why I have not contacted the Smithsonian is that I'm a nobody. I'm a family member. I'm going to be viewed as a disgruntled family member wanting 10 minutes of fame.
Pause. So it's 2025 and she hasn't contacted anyone because of her fear of being accused of these things, when all she wants is her sister's rightful place in history. That's all she wants. You know, I don't understand when people listen to the masses and don't, and you know, you'll hear the small voices, but once you're with the masses, it's like a peer pressure type thing. And I just really, I understand the mother's perspective, and I say it was out of fear. I understand not wanting to bring another woman down. That is very admirable. I understand that it would have been, you know, especially at that time, perceived as doing that in that day, and could have very well caused division as to who was the first. She the first. No, I'm the first. No. It's me, it's me, it's me, it's me. So it could have very well turned into a Montgomery debacle. But they sacrificed. Claudette Colvin and her family sacrificed. And as her own account, Claudette Colvin says that, you know, I got pregnant after that. And again, I'm going to say, what if? Not that her children are not a blessing. I'm sure they are a blessing. She says it herself. What if the community would have gotten around her? What if the NAACP and, you know, all of the people that were in fear, what if they would have rallied around her and lifted her up? This is the history that we will not repeat for anyone. So, as I get ready to close, what is my point about Tiffany Henyard? My point about Tiffany Henyard is she's not Rosa Parks. She didn't have a cushy cushion to fall back on. She didn't even realize that she was being set up. So, lover or hater, she will always be the very first and youngest female mayor and supervisor. So mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township. And the same glee that the trustee and excitement that the trustees have for the Pope, I can't wait to see the huge party that you throw in honor of the very first and youngest female mayor of Dolton. Oh, probably not going to do that, huh? It's going to happen, though, because it's history, and we will not ignore history. History will not be ignored. I don't know where Tiffany is. I don't know what she's doing. Hopefully, she's having a Pepsi in peace, as I always say to her. Hopefully, you're having a Pepsi in peace, because this was wild. This was a wild ride, not only for you, but for Trina Downs, for Burgundy Blue Commentary. This was a ride. All over some trustees. And then you still got people that want to fight and argue about Tiffany Henyard. And I'm not talking about any one person, because Look, you can look at this one, what I'm saying right now, like, well, why you sitting up there fighting for Tiffany Henyard? Well, and this would be my answer. Now, I'm making sure that history is history. Whether certain people appreciate it or not, history is history, and you can't change that, boo. Jason, you can't change history. As a matter of fact, I found what you said about your mentor stating that, and I'm not about to pull up no clips of that boring old Dolton meeting because you will not be on this with this lovely person that I have on the screen, but I am going to take pause to say it was quite a divisive speech that you gave in honor of things that your mentor said, like about anger, because you know, in the last few years, you probably should have led with that, with the people at the podium. You know what I'm saying? No, you want to wait till you're mayor to start quoting quotes about not being so angry and saying the first thing that comes to your mind. That is the most divisive quote that is taken out of context from your mentor. Please don't quote your mentor no more. Just don't do it. Because for you, as a man, to sit there for 4 years and not use that pretty little quote from your mentor, which is a great quote, by the way. It was great. It was a wonderful quote. But you want to wait. You waited until you were mayor to have a quote about being angry and just saying the first thing on your mind and all of this and that. Okay, so that applies to everything that y'all saying applies to everybody but Tiffany Henyard. Stop. I mean, you could at least be like, I ain't never say nothing about it, but no, y'all just, you all choose to try not to speak about her. And it's time. It's time. Yeah, here we go. Tiffany, you got my memo? No, she didn't get my memo. Hey, it's not up to her. It's up to the people, and it's up to history. They're not Dolton United. What is that? How is it that you all are talking about Dolton United and all the youth in Dolton, as well as the greater Chicagoland area, are still saying unity in the community? Crazy work that y'all try to do. And we've sat here for 3 years, 4 years, and listened. Very confusingly, I must add, because I was confused at first. I'll be the first to say this. I was very confused until I started saying, who benefits from this? What do the residents want? Market 10911. The residents just wanted y'all to get along, but y'all chose not to get along. Oh, I told Tiffany she's so arrogant and she's a narcissist. Where's the doctor in the room? Possibly besides Dr. Grande, who I absolutely love. But if he doesn't have the whole story, he might give his thoughts of not misdiagnosing people in, the wrong way based on, the information that he has at hand. So, that being said, Jason House, Tammy Brown, Brittany Norwood, Stan Brown, Kiana Belcher, Andrew Holmes. Shout out to Critical Smoker, because if you go to Critical Smoker's shorts, I believe he has a short of the trustees and the new mayor dancing to Not Like Us, at the point of them saying, hey, Drake, I hear you like I'm young. How disrespectful was that? How disrespectful is that? All in the name of trying to be like Tiffany Henyard. And you can't. You're not. I'm not saying anybody's beneath anybody, because that's not how this should have been. And for you all to take that opportunity and not at one moment step in and say, okay, yeah, we don't agree with the mayor, Tiffany Henyard. However, we're going to keep a respectful platform. You, Kiana, giggling, until people were talking about you. So, see, this is what we're not going to do is forget and just move on, because I can't speak for everyone, but I know certain aspects of our culture has us in this sense that we should not apologize. We should just keep moving forward. No, that's not how it works. Some of our ancestors, or maybe the lack thereof, did not teach us that. No, you make amends. There has to be restoration of some type. Now, if that person does not accept your apology, that's a whole different thing. You've done what you're supposed to do. However, outside of that, there should be resolution, whether it's to agree to disagree or some type of resolution. But you all sat there for 4 years as people came to the podium and talked about nothing. And Jason House, do you think people are not supposed to come to the podium and ask why they see you at the liquor store? There's no DoorDash. I mean, I guess they're still telling you, but seriously? Tammy Brown, Jason House, here's another question for Jason House as well. And it's Brittany Norwood and Kiana Belcher and Nikita Cloud. So you all expect to move forward without having to answer questions and things that you put out to the public. How does that work? It doesn't, and it's not. So, in the spirit of the transparency that you all, Jason House, stated that you were going to have, even though I knew you weren't, because as soon as you said you didn't have a plan, oh, I'm sorry, let me quote you correctly. You're not gonna, the plan is gonna happen, once you take office, and, something about you don't have to say it up front. Yeah, that was on the news, but just know we're gonna implement it when we get there. How'd that work out? Y'all sure did implement stuff. Y'all bought a Pope house, but y'all ain't. What's on the February agenda for Black History Month? Because y'all gonna look all of stupid if you really don't recognize your first mayor. It's just un-American. This has nothing to do with Tiffany. It's un-American. It's un-American, and it's unheard of. We're not going to wait 60-something years to acknowledge that Tiffany Henyard is the first and youngest female mayor of Dolton, Illinois. Tiffany A. Henyard is the first female and youngest to take office as a supervisor of Thornton Township. It is what it is. But you all have such hatefulness, and I'm speaking directly to the trustees now, so I hope the three of y'all that's in here are the trustees. Or Jason. No, Jason probably still asleep. Whatever. Anywho, so we just not gonna talk about Tiffany. We're gonna do the encanto. We about to incantate some things. But we don't talk about boom. No. That's what y'all finna do. We don't talk about boom. No. That's what we doing. That's what we doing. But we don't talk about Bruno. Yeah. No, we're gonna talk about the first female mayor of Dolton. We're going to talk about the first female mayor, supervisor of Thornton Township, and we want to know what she commingled throughout the Southland. We don't want to hear that audits cost money because, hey, bump some salaries down, make it happen, just like you wanted it. Chris Gonzalez, you a whole mess. But back to the fighting spirit of 1955. It's crazy that we're in 2025 and we just witnessed one woman tell y'all what was about to happen, and it is indeed happening. Canned goods, buying houses, the bag reappeared, and ain't not one person laughing unless they laughing at y'all.
And looking for money. And that's not the case.
What do you want?
All we want is that the truth. We want, why does history fail to get it right? Why do the historians, the academics, the professors, the powers that be, what is it about the Browder versus Gale case and Claudette that bothers them so that they won't tell the truth about what really happened, and that you won't take anything away from the mother of the civil rights, but what is it about
That stops you from
that
including
stops you from including the facts?
Hey, it's gonna be jealousy, envy, cheating, beating, and in darkness, all the same thing. So that's what it is. Point blank, period. Jealousy. That's why they don't want to include Tiffany. That's why they never wanted to include Tiffany. That's why they chose the isolation method. If you want to know more about that, I'll probably talk about it. I don't know. But this is why they chose to isolate anyone who associated themselves with Tiffany. Anyone was called a Tiffany supporter. Wow, I wonder how that works out in Jesus's days. Hey, are you a Jesus supporter? What? I just think the man be saying some interesting things that make sense to me, because why are y'all in that church collecting money? Why y'all doing that? See what I'm saying? Like, Jesus seemed like every time he stepped foot in the church, it was a fight. The one time that anybody ever can really name, Jesus Christ went in church and caused a whole ruckus. Nobody liked him in real time. Why do we do this? Jealousy, afraid of the truth, people wanting stuff, greed is crazy. So how many years ago could Jesse Jackson have said this? See, I don't care. We talking to everybody. I hear one of your peoples, your sons or somebody, they in Dolton now. So what took you so long, Jesse Jackson, to say this?
They deserve to be recognized for the role, for the risk they took, and for the kind of gallant spirit they had in that season.
Had it not been for Claudette Colvin, Aurelia Browder, Susan McDonald, and Mary Louise Smith, they may not have been a Thurgood Marshall, a Robert L. Carter, a Martin Luther King, a Fred Gray, or a Rosa Parks.
In fact,
as far as Dolton is concerned, if it had not been for Tiffany Henyard, if it had not been for Mama Cheryl Hill, the child put the heck up out and had her strong-armed, all kind of stuff. If it had not been for Trina Downs, who you all try to peg as crazy from the start, but has probably taught you all the most. If it had not been for Burgundy Blue Commentary, who just simply came in here talking about history, and why not talk about history where you live? So, to me, that's the Browder versus Gray's case. Like it or not. Period. It is what it is. It is what it is. They all told y'all something, and whether you wanted to listen or not was up to you. And you took pieces from the same people and ran with that story instead. And that's where the people who ran with the stories very much have a very big impact on how this played out. It's terrible. Because you know what? If I keep it to, how people try to talk, okay, so if I just keep it to, man, as far as Black-led neighborhoods are concerned, the white people who would, they laughing at y'all. They are laughing. And I'm not talking about the rate. I'm talking about the actual mayor and trustees and supervisor of the township and those trustees just laughing at y'all. Sitting kicked back somewhere talking about how told y'all Black people don't know how to run nothing. That's why I told you they fight each other. Yeah, when they say Black on Black crime, that's not just teens and boys killing boys and Black on Black crime is what it is. It's a Jim Crow law. Watch them tear each other down. Watch them destroy their own communities. That's what y'all did. This is what you did. It's not even about a Tiffany Henyard. It is literally about what people will do in the name of greed, jealousy, envy. You will snake your own people. Tell them that we are broke. The bag is empty. But won't share how you bought houses. It's crazy. And over there in the township, Trustee Mary, and my Sandra from 227 voice. How you gonna not know what you're talking about when you're talking in a microphone? And then try to say, like, give us grace or whatever y'all been all trying to say. No. I mean, I'm not going to say no, because I would say give y'all the same grace y'all gave Tiffany. It's only fair, right? It's only fair, right? Y'all are so wild to me. It's really something. So I wanted to end with this student that I really loved what she had to say.
The head of the museum to consider giving Miss Colvin a more prominent place among the framers of civil rights.
Dear Miss Moresi, I believe the National Museum of African American History and Culture should include a display honoring Miss Colvin's work as a civil rights activist, because she is a very courageous woman who hasn't received the recognition she deserves. After Miss Colvin was arrested, her classmates shunned her and community leaders didn't appreciate her act of bravery. She wasn't given the recognition she deserved in other ways too. For example, on December 21st, 1956, the first day of integrated bus service in Montgomery, Dr. King and 4 other leaders took a symbolic bus ride. Surprisingly, Miss Colvin was not invited to join them for that historic first bus ride.
I'm happy to hear of the bus company's decision to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling. And I'm sure I voice the sentiment of the 50,000 Negroes of Montgomery who have been involved in the bus protests for, well, now 20 weeks.
Isn't it time for the public to learn about a woman who was only 15 years old at the time and yet was so brave and had such an impact? Isn't the National Museum of African American History and Culture the perfect place to honor Claudette Colvin, an unsung hero of the civil rights movement? Sincerely, Sophie Bloomstein.
And that's our story. Folks, Claudette Colvin is getting up in age, and her family would like to see nothing more than her name enshrined in the National Museum of African American History and Culture. That is her rightful place for her contributions. We reached out to the museum for response. So far, as of this presentation, we have not heard back. 1010 Win supports the family's efforts, and we invite you to send cards and letters to the address listed on your screen.
So, yes, please send to the address listed on your screen. Please help Claude. I know I have already written my letter. I have actually sent an email as well. And what we're not going to do, because the trustees of Dolton, Illinois, as well as the trustees of Thornton Township, have yet to prove that Tiffany Henyard has done anything wrong. We will not be waiting 50, 60, 70 years. We will not be waiting 10 years, and we will not be waiting 5 years to recognize the women that I've named, to include Tiffany Henyard in this fight, in this real live fight that nobody wanted to be a part of. And if you missed the names, Tiffany Henyard, Tiffany A. Henyard, Cheryl Hill, Trina Downs, Burgundy Blue Commentary. If there are more, please don't hesitate to put their names in the comments below. Because guess what? Come this February, we're recognizing everybody that lived there and had a positive contribution. So, I'm not going to say that that's the 4 that is the end all be all for me. Those are just the people that I know of. Again, drop some names in the chat, because regardless of what your government does, and that's anywhere, regardless of what your government does, you need to be able to stand alone. You need to be able to stand up. You need to be able to do things on your own. Now, it would be really embarrassing for the public officials and the elected officials, not to mention their very first female and youngest mayor of Dolton. It would be quite a travesty if Thornton Township, not recognizing that after decades of having a Caucasian male, which is no shade to Frank Zuccarelli at all, but history again is history. And when people make history, we acknowledge them. That's why there's even a Guinness Book of World Records. I mean, this is what we do. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. If it's for the next generation, it's for the next generation. But guess what? We're not going to wait. We're going to join them, and we're going to start now. So with that, until next time, I am sending love and light, and I'm wishing everyone a fantastic weekend. And until next time, bye.